don't know, just cut me.
It's counting down.
Yeah, that wasn't.
I can see it's going to be live in 13. That's
yeah,
yeah,
that's fine. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Have you used StreamYard before?
This is my first time live.
Okay.
I've used it for pre-recording. Sorry, just one moment.
All right, good. Okay. Kind of looking to test it out while here, actually.
Looks cool.
Did you get it, Beth? Did you get the link? Hey guys, does it slow down?
The time or the video?
Oh, because mine seems to be going in slow motion, the video.
Oh, I'm not seeing no video.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's event, MIF Music Industry Fellowship, Raising the Standard event. Hope you guys are all doing well this evening. So excited for you to join. We're gonna kick off shortly. But before we get into it, obviously, I just wanted to share a little bit about Music Industry Fellowship and what we're about. This is our very first event. Yay! I'm just so excited to be here and just to put this on by the grace of God. So Music Industry Fellowship, if you don't know, it's just a fellowship for musicians, artists, singers, songwriters, whatever you may be. If you're creative in the music industry or professional in the music industry, whether you're part of a worship team or what have you, this is just a fellowship for us to kind of come together and seek the Lord and just be a mouthpiece in this industry, because I don't know about you, but this industry needs Jesus, just like the whole world. But I feel like God has like a specific burden for the music industry, and this is why it exists. So welcome to Raising the Standard. Guys, you are watching on our YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is also being recorded, so then you can also play back and watch it again and again as much as you want to. Make sure you are following Music Industry Fellowship on our social media handles on Instagram, which is MIF London as well. You can also join our mailing list as well. The link is in our description box below for you to keep up to date with our monthly meetups. We meet every last Friday of the month, and our first one of the year is next Friday, actually. So join our mailing list to keep up to date with anything MIF, and even for some words of encouragement that I'll be sending once in a while. Yeah, so we're gonna go straight into it. Raising the Standard. Guys, let's be interactive. Let's engage. Send your questions. If you want to send in your questions with the comment section, then follow it with hashtag RTS, just so we know that these are questions. But definitely get engaged with comments. Listen, we want to be as interactive as possible. And right now, as you can see on our screen, we have got our amazing panelists. I'm so excited to see each and every one of you. And these are incredible people in the industry in their own right. And I'm just going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. So I'm going to do it in order as I see. So we're going to start off with Jay. Hi, Jay. Introduce yourself.
Hey, buddy, sorry, I was on mute. Hey, buddy, hope you're good. My name is Joe. I'm a music producer, songwriter, mixing and soda. In my own studio. Is it?
We're lagging a bit.
Right.
Okay, I think we may have lost Jay for a second. We'll come back to him. Next, let's go into Derrick. Derrick, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Derrick Tchie. I run one of the world's fastest growing Christian media and entertainment brands. And I'm here today. I'm actually excited about this because it's right in my area as well. So I'm really looking forward to just sharing and also engaging in conversation of what we're actually like doing in the music industry. So yeah, and fun facts, I just got engaged today, so I thought I'd throw that in there as well. So yeah, so I'm happy about that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you. And that's me.
Awesome. Can I also quickly share a fun fact about you, Derrick?
Yeah.
That you definitely do not know. So I actually first came across gospel hydration in 2017. Oh, wow. And how I found out about it is because you actually messaged me on SoundCloud.
Really?
Regarding a song. regarding a song I'd released, I think I had just released my very first EP, and I was under the name Rosie at the time.
Oh.
And the song was Jae-Eaux, and that's how I found out about gospel hydration.
Oh, wow.
So I'm so excited to have I was like, oh my gosh, this is the guy that messaged me all these years ago.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it is. It's crazy how things work together, but so great to have you on here, Derrick. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you say. Next up, we've got Afaron. Afaron, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? It's all right. Is it not lagging or anything?
No, you good?
Cool. All right. Hey guys, my name is Afaron Gordon. I am a music consultant and booking agent for my own entertainment agency called Momentum Music. I've worked with various artists and creatives across the board. I'm a musician myself. Pending author, I've got a new book called The Modern Day Levite, which will just like outline some of the discussions we have tonight. So that'll be coming out this year. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. And one fun fact about yourself.
Oh gosh, I don't know. How deep does the rabbit hole go? No, I'm joking. I honestly don't know. I rarely like me putting myself out there. It's like the most you'll ever hear me talking about myself. So you can ask me as many questions as I want, but I wouldn't be able to come up with one fact just randomly like that. I don't know. So come back to me later on that one.
Cool, no problem. And then next we've got Audrey Gray. Nice to have you, Audrey. If you'd like to introduce yourself and just a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so I'm Audrey Gray. I've been working in the music industry for over a decade. I work with artists and various organizations to help develop their careers or projects. So it could be anything from working on an artist's album project or working with a label to help establish a label, or to work with a promoter to build an event and roll that event out, etc. I've just recently been appointed CEO of GMIA, which is a Gospel Music Industry Alliance. And yeah, starting to navigate that, and really passionate about developing the gospel industry, which you'll find out when we go into the discussions.
Amazing.
My fun fact is that I'm a big fan of Law and Order. And today, Law and Order SVU, Snoop Dogg's going to be in it, so I'm going to have to leave you guys if you run over time, because I need to see that episode. Because Farron, don't hide your head. This is a fun fact about me. Big fan of Law and Order.
Awesome. That's a great fact. And I'm just going to quickly just talk about Jay, because I think you may have been just slight internet issues, but just in case, Jae-Eaux is a music producer, and he's been working in the industry for as long as I've known him personally, for over 10 years. He's recently become a label owner for First Class Music Industry, and has recently opened up 2911 recording studios. Jay, if you're with us, please continue.
Can you hear me now? Is it all good?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Woo, thank God. What bit should I get up to? Fun fact or continue? Which bit should I do?
Yeah, just a fun fact.
Fun fact, I actually got finessed into playing the piano when I was a kid. I was meant to get a PS2 and I got finessed into playing keyboard in church, and then that led me to where I am today. So yeah, I got finessed into doing what I'm doing now. Okay. Yeah, shout out to my mum.
Awesome. All right, let's just delve straight into this conversation so that Audrey can go and watch Law and Order with Snoop Dogg.
What? Cameo appearances, come on.
I know, can't miss it. So I kind of just wanted us to start just by kind of talking about like the gospel industry as a whole, how maybe each of you are seeing it at the moment compared to how it was possibly 5, 10, maybe even 20 years ago. or so. So I'm going to leave maybe Audrey, because you've worked in the industry for a very, very long time, kind of just give us your perspective just to kick us off on how you see the UK gospel industry at present compared to the past.
I would say that the industry is developing and it needs to be developing. There's this constant argument of whether we have an industry or a scene, etc. I would liken the industry that we have now to a market as opposed to an industry, because there is not enough solid collaboration across all the infrastructural stuff that needs to happen to denote an industry, if you see what I mean. But I mean, the good news is that markets convert into industries, and I would hope we're pushing in the right direction towards developing the industry further. Yeah, definitely, I would say.
Okay, and then how? Yeah. So would you say that's always been the case? Kind of, it's always been more like a scene as opposed to an industry, and we're just kind of developing into that.
No, I mean, it has progressed. I would say it definitely has progressed. For me, my experience has been that I left the UK for 12 years, so I missed what some would term the gospel boom in the UK. So when I came back into the UK, even though I went and worked in music industry in the Caribbean, so I was living in Trinidad and Tobago and working with artists there and working with their version of PRS and working with mainstream artists and local Christian artists as well. So I was putting on events and raising artists effectively. So, but it shocked me when I came back to the UK and realized that we still have a level of undevelopment, if that's a word, that they have there. It shocked me to realize that was a fact. But then it is a lot about finding the areas that you can work in and you start something. I think there's too much of people waiting for somebody else to do it or coming up with these wonderful ideas of what you should do, but not acknowledging that actually it starts with you as the individual. And that's how it must continue. Because it's only one brick at a time we can really do. So, yeah, so I would say that it developed from the time I left to the time I came back, but it still has holes in it that need filling, definitely.
Yeah. Any other panelists want to build on that in terms of what the scene or the industry as a whole from what Audrey has said?
Yeah, I'll add on to that as well, because I feel that the scene has well, if you call it a scene or a market, I feel that it has developed quite a lot actually as well. And I feel like it's I think now we've got the right way of looking at it and seeing it more as a community than actually what it was before, where it was everyone was doing so many different things. But now I feel like with Gospel Hydration, what I've done as well is I've tried to focus more on community than actually the artists themselves. And what's happened is because people see that community and that culture, which is actually in a Christian community, they're able to resonate more with the music, which I think is something that is really important, because what the world has, what a lot of secular music have, they have a lot of platforms where it is literally the culture and then the music bounces from that. And in the Christian community, we didn't really have that before, but we have it a lot more now, which I think is good, because it's actually people are now engaging more with the music and they're listening to the music, but they want to know the person behind the music as well. Before, it was only in churches where you heard Christian music. Now you hear it all over the web. And I think it's a good thing, like a lot of platforms are building up, especially in the Christian music industry. Obviously, we need more and we need like growth, but I feel that it is going in the right direction, which I'm really happy with.
Awesome. I 100% agree on that point as well, in terms of, I mean, I liked what you said, that how you feel like we're more kind of building a community now, as opposed to just, you know, like the one person that is kind of carrying the torch, I suppose, if you like, and things, and that a lot more people are plugged in to Christian music and things. And we've got amazing platforms like Gospel Hydration, like A Step Forward, who are pushing those things out now, which is making, I think, the gospel industry or the scene a lot more visible, and carrying a lot more potential, because we've got other people who are, you know, now stepping out into this scene and things like that. Afaron or Jae-Eaux, do you have anything to add to those?
Yeah, there's a lot. What Audrey and Derrick have said is just like a few key points for many things. Because to be honest, in my opinion, we're at a season, especially with the new decade and everything else, where there's been a lot of changes in the way we even see the industry moving forward. And I think one of the best things that we're going to, like, I'm sure Audrey will talk about later, that we're kind of moving forward into do is providing, whether that be services, ministry, whatever you call it, both in the temple and in the marketplace, which is which on a new level is going to be quite new and quite substantial. So it's going to have a good effect, hopefully, over the next. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. It's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of new models and platforms, everything. It's going to be amazing.
Rosemond, you there?
I know. Wasn't planning on that's freezing, were we?
I know.
I think she's coming back.
I thought it was me for a second there. I thought I was talking to everyone else for us.
Oh, where's she gone?
Right,
She's come back.
Oh my gosh.
Technical.
Days my internet decides to mess about. Just gonna wait. Afaron, you can continue. I think we're back.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that it's a very exciting time during this time, and I think we're going to see a lot more opportunities both in the temple and in the marketplace, connecting with the world a lot more. For just dealing on both sides, both on the macro side and the micro side, I think. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what the next decade holds for our industry. And I agree with it's moved, in my opinion, from a scene to a market, definitely. And then we aim to get it to an industry where it can be sustainable.
Yeah.
And both on a business side and a performance, business, performance, and then and ministry as well. Let's just be honest. Because I think us as an industry, we are the only genre, I've said it before in previous Zooms, we are the only genre that is a double-edged sword, where we have ministry and performance or creativity on both sides, or whether that be business and ministry. No other genre has that privilege. So we have, a lot more work to do, but it's going to be exciting.
We do. I agree. So then let's now kind of move on to the quality of music that has been released. For me personally, I do think it's getting better. And, for me anyway, if it wasn't for platforms like Gospel Hydration and now the rise of social media and things like that, I would find it very hard to find music that is done by Christian artists that I really, really, really enjoy. Unfortunately, I have come across some songs that are just not up to par standard-wise, but I do agree in that I think that is getting a lot better. I want to kind of kick this off with Jay, because you're a producer, but you're a producer that works, you're a Christian, you serve the Lord, but you work with secular mainstream artists. You don't work with gospel artists. So can you kind of touch upon the quality and maybe give advice as to how we can get better? What could be done better? I mean, it's getting better, but obviously there's always room for improvement. So, you know, just what's your take on the quality that has been, and, you know, what it is now, and what could have been the issue in between?
I think in my opinion, I think it all comes down to who you're actually using and who you're going to for your services. So I feel like, and I say this in the most nicest way, but I feel like the kind of misconception is that if I get somebody outside of church, I don't know if they know God, anything else as well, and they may be expensive. I've always learned, and I've always kind of grown to certain things are expensive because of the quality of what they are. So, for instance, I feel like a lot of artists back like, say, like the last 10 years wouldn't go to certain people because they may cost a lot or just because of their own feelings. I just feel like it's a thing where we kind of need to get past the barrier and understand that if we're in this as an artist, this is actually a business as well. So if you want your music to sound great, you may have to fork out and start paying people that are actually great in their field. So, like, for instance, if I'm going to draw an example, but not from the UK, for instance, you will never see somebody like Timbaland get his song mixed by a 14-year-old. It just doesn't make no sense. Unless the 14-year-old is the best at that time.
That mix for Beyonce for some odd reason.
You say what?
Unless they've mixed for Beyonce for some odd reason.
Exactly. Unless they're like the top level at their age and they've done previous work that kind of backs them up. You'll never see him go to somebody like that. He'll go to the best person that he can go to, whether the fee is £1,000 or 10,000. He'll get that done because he's competing against the best as well. So not even to throw competition into gospel as well, but is a business. So you kind of have to be on your A game, and I think that's where music kind of should go. And also, I feel like there's not a lot enough people going left, as in it feels like everybody made to stay in the same box. I feel like everybody kind of needs to kind of look and see outside the box. So experiment with different things that aren't the norm in gospel music. So for instance, try gospel house, try something like gospel house, even try gospel jazz, like try to move in other boxes where it's like you can now become the pioneer of that new sound. So I feel like people kind of do need to go left and just experiment and don't be afraid.
That's very true. That's very true. There is, I found that to be very, very true in the sense of we don't seem to study before we go to approach something. And I think that is really, really odd, because if you're working on a project, that's what you do. You go and research everything. Who's the best in whatever? Where can I get the best product? Where can I get the best designs? Blah, blah. You go and study that. So, and we should be doing that with music. You know, pop music is what it is because people study trends and they copy those trends and just put a little tilt on it. So the same thing always comes right back round again. The same vibe will always come right back around because those popularity points are always the same. So I don't think that we purpose to write a hit. We don't come together and say, you know what, my writing is not all that. I'm going to work with another writer. We're going to sit in this room until we get a song that's thing. And we're going to look at reference points. Let's look at reference music and decide, okay, this is the kind of vibe we want. This is the kind of singer we want. You know, this is what the video is going to look like, even taking it right to the end of the road before you even start to pen something, and then intentionally write a hit. And I think if you're a gospel artist and you want your message to travel, that's what you should be doing, because otherwise it's not going to disseminate to the fullness of where it is. So I'm kind of tired of hearing artists come to me and, oh, I want to write, I got this song while I was sitting on the toilet. The Lord spoke to me. What? Really? No, that's not going to work for PR. So we're going to have to come up with another story and you're going to stick to it, right? So, yeah, I just think study to show yourself approved. It's a word, isn't it?
It's biblical.
And that's in everything. If I want to be a better parent, I've got to study. parenting. But you see what I'm saying? So it's just like how much more your calling card to the world, what your music should be. Do you know what I mean? So I just think we have to be intentional about what we do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just about the calling card as well, because I think it's a lot of the times, and you can even tell with the music that is put out that has been used to justify why the quality of the music isn't quite right, because God laid this song on my heart, and that's fine, but sometimes, and I've been in that position, maybe not on the toilet, but I've been in a position where God will drop a song on my heart, and I'm not the best songwriter in the world, but I know that I'm going to need extra help to flesh it out to be everything that it's supposed to be. And and I think sometimes like we kind of get a bit too territorial.
Yeah, that's it.
With our songs, and bit too, in a way, kind of a bit up ourselves, and like, I don't need anybody else to help me because the Lord will help me. I was like, listen, at the end of the day, God isn't a God of isolation. He has deposited creativity in almost everybody. And if we're going to bring it back to the music industry, think of all of us now on the panel. We are all blessed in one way or another, and we can all help and support one another. Derrick, from your perspective in terms of quality, you've been running Gospel Hydration for about 4 or 5 years now. How has the quality either risen, or maybe in some cases kind of declined? How do you kind of vet the quality of music that you display on your platform? And just talk us through your perspective on that.
Do you know what's funny, actually, towards the point, because I agree with how it should be like professional and it should come out, and at the same time I agree with like the importance as well as creativity, because what I've realized, like just running the platform, from artists when they first submitted to when they're submitting 4 years later, if I see a considerable change, and there's some artists that you see that blow up now, but they started about 4 years ago, and they've actually grown, and they've been able to now see something different in their music and think, why wasn't it getting attention then? What do I need to change or do differently? So I think sometimes that the professionalism is important, but at the same time as well, they need to chuck things out just to see what the market likes and what people respond well to. Right. I even remember who is it, Called Out Music, when he like dropped his first couple of tracks, like he's found a model, and he's found a sound which is his, and he's taken that and he's continued to replicate a similar sound of every track, and people like that, and that's what he's grown, and that's how he's gotten to the place he's got to as well. So it's about finding your sound and finding that creativity that is yours and kind of running with it, because there's a lot of tracks that people wouldn't think blew up, but they blew up not because they put so much work into it, but because people resonated with that more. So I think it's trying to figure out who your audience is, but also how are you going to create something which actually reaches that person. And so many artists have done it. So many artists send music into me, and I see the quality, and some of it's terrible, but then some of them I respond back and give them good feedback, like nice feedback, but then they come and hit me with a track maybe a couple of months later, and I'm like, wow, this is completely different. So it's like, it's good to be able to have a learnable and teachable spirit where you can actually like learn what's good about your music and what isn't as well. But sometimes it's a lot of pride that people carry with their music, so it's always hard, especially in Christian music, because everyone writes something from their heart. So it's hard to tell people that you need to kind of do better in this area. But I think that the people that can actually take the feedback and grow and learn from it, they're the ones that really like kind of become set apart and really stand out with their music.
100%. As someone who works with artists and kind of develop them in a way, you know, how do you kind of get them to raise their standard in the quality of music to kind of go from, you know, we all start from somewhere, you know,
Right.
we all start from somewhere. And as Derrick touched on, you know, it's depending on the person having a teachable spirit to accept feedback and accept constructive criticism to grow and develop. So how do you, Afaron, kind of help artists to kind of, in a sense, get over themselves in order to be better and produce better?
As a musician, because I'm a musician as well, I kind of go back to the basics of just studying the craft. Really just putting in the time, putting the, you know, I think it was this quote, I don't know if it's true or not, but they say that a great musician puts, like, to be a great musician, you need to put in the, like, 10,000 hours. And the point is that you have to study your craft to get to a certain point where it can become of a certain standard. And I think the more we put the effort and consistency into it, it will naturally show. And it might not come straight away, but over time, like Derrick was saying, with the journey of the career and the ministry, however you want to put it, from what aspect you're coming from, it will get better. So I start from that angle first, and then we kind of go into other areas such as, you know, branding, quality, working with the right people, whether that be producers, other musicians, probably even working on craft by going literally back to studying or getting a vocal coaching or a stage coach or whoever. Do you know what I mean? So I just go back to, let's start at the root, the craft, and then work our way up from there.
Yeah, there was a comment mentioned earlier that said that, you know, we're in an era where, you know, people are kind of doing everything themselves. Everyone's learning to do themselves, though. Do you think, I do believe that's true to an extent, but I do feel there always comes a point where you're going to need help to take it to the next level. Well, how do you agree? Does anyone disagree on that? What do you?
I think
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I do agree, definitely. Because I think artists walk around with this idea that independent means alone. And that's not the case. That is not the case. Because, I mean, even if you have your sister doing your bookings, you're not alone. You see what I mean? You must have some sort of team or some extra ears that are listening into what you're doing. So independent doesn't mean alone. And just because you have access to all these, like Canva, and you can go and do Adobe Audio, or you can go and learn Pro Tools and the rest of it, you can do it yourself. It doesn't mean that you're going to end up with the best possible product, because you do need insight. You do need somebody else's insight, whether it's a DJ, you know, you can pass the music on and say, what do you think about A versus B? You know, those kinds of things. Inviting people to, like, listening parties while you're still in a drafting stage, so that you don't get a heart attack when they tell you know what, cut the whole second verse. Yeah, cut the whole second verse. Yeah, you need to, you're refraining a bit too much. No, so so at those stages, so they can input into your project without you having a heart attack, because you mixed and mastered it already. So I think there is that microwave way that we all have. I think it's 2021. You know, you can go on YouTube and spend a couple of hours, go down the rabbit hole and find out how to do stuff. But I think the human touch is what makes music sincere. So ultimately, you're still going to need some sort of sincerity, and that goes across in your music and your branding, your marketing, and the rest of it. Yeah,
I would say I'm on the fence. You know, I'm on the fence. Because I get it is 2021. Everybody has access to a MacBook Pro and Logic and whatever. But my thing is, especially and I'm going to keep stressing on the word business. In this business, you have to be of a certain level for it to be considered good or great. And it's true, like I can go on Logic now and learn how to master, I can learn how to write, I can learn how to play the guitar. But there's probably somebody in my circle who's an expert in that field. So again, if I'm trying to be in the marketplace of a high level, I would better let somebody else who's an expert in that field take over and do that to the best of their abilities, rather than me trying to do it myself. It's And I feel that's kind of like where collaboration really plays a bigger part, because out of your own circle, you could create your own super team. Like, I was watching an interview a few days ago with one of the people that I look up to, Timbaland, and he said something very, very key. He said, even though he was making his music, he was good. When he started collaborating, that's when he became great. And even somebody who's as big as him, he's still a fan of collaborating and not being like, I'm Timbaland, this is my circle, I'm doing it, and that's it. He's looked around and he said, you know what? That person there's got something that I can't do, or I can do, but I can't do as well as them. I'm going to have them in my team and let them do it. And then it helps the bigger picture work. So I think even though you can do it by yourself, it's not everything that you should do by yourself. Like, I'm not going to try and redecorate my house by myself. That ain't going to happen. My house look bad. But I will try to do some things that I can do, and the things that I can't, get somebody who's proficient in that field to do it, to let them do it.
And I think it works too, is because then when you're collaborating with people, especially someone who is at a higher level from you, you can learn as well. You learn from
100%.
Well. We always have room for improvement and to get better. So then moving on from that and into collaboration, and I kind of briefly mentioned that sometimes we can play the Christian card when it comes to not really producing great things, or maybe relationships not going too well, and in possibly that kind of stifling the development and the growth of this scene. I've got another comment here saying that obviously studying the business is key, which is 100%. We need to know the business of music, and even if it's just the basics, we need to learn to get our head around just the simple things. And I don't know if anybody agrees with me, feel free to disagree, but maybe a lot of us within this scene don't know that. And on top of that, we're playing this Christian card to the point where, we're kind of just releasing stuff just for the sake.
The Lord will do.
Sake of. I joined, kind of digressing to kind of make a point at the same time. Audrey also hosts a bi-weekly gospel talks called Gospel Topics under Industry Developer. And I joined one a couple of weeks ago, which was absolutely fire. Guys, join it. It happens bi-weekly. And I can't remember who said it, but, someone said that, it's kind of that excuse of hearing something for God, but not getting the strategy as to how to kind of distribute and market this out. What do you say? Do you then, it kind of goes into my next point of the conversation, do you feel that Christianity or our faith or our spirituality is getting in the way of, or we can use it and it gets in the way of us exploring and experimenting and doing things right?
I think cool. I think, hello, you? Yeah, I think I wouldn't say spirituality, I would call it probably traditions, certain traditions that the church does kind of gets in the way. Like I said before, gospel music is a double-edged sword. It's half business and half ministry. And every person that is involved in this industry has to look at it with both eyes, or both sides of the coin, or both sides of the sword. You can't just have one side without the other. It's just not gonna be the full package. So if you're too business and not enough spiritual, it can get a bit messy, and vice versa. So I think we do at times get a little bit too spiritual, and get in the traditions and think, yeah, God will blow me up after I've released this one single or whatever, and you're thinking it's going to be some, to quote a phrase, a Sanash world star or something, or Israel or something like that. Yeah, it probably could, but without great PR, without great marketing, without great branding, it will only get so far, no matter how good the song is. So the minute once the ministry part is done, we need to say, all right, cool. What are the business tools that we need to use to strategically plan and get the content and the context of what's being said out there?
Yeah,
Sorry, Derek.
sorry, yeah, I agree on that, and I think that as well. Just to throw a spanner into it as well. Obviously, being people of faith, we understand that we do everything with purpose. A lot of people do things that without purpose, or they're thinking, let me try this genre because I want to blow. But that shouldn't be the focus, if you know what I mean.
Force, yeah.
It should be something where it's their understanding and try and pray and actually understand what their lane is and where their lane is and who they're actually meant to be focusing on and reaching. Because I think a lot of artists, they focus a lot more on success than they actually do of their craft and actually what they're doing. And sometimes that can be a bad thing because they end up being in a place where they're not actually being fulfilled by what they're doing. So then they get frustrated because they're not getting the views they want, and they're getting frustrated because they're not getting the engagement they want as well. So then they might blame it on their craft and say, okay, Christian music isn't the way I want to go, and they'll go and do something else, or they'll jump into another genre or something. But sometimes it's about trying to really like kind of ground yourself and think, okay, where am I called to as well? Obviously not trying to get too spiritual, but understanding where you are first, and then you can focus on, okay, how is this going to work business wise, and how is this going to work purpose wise as well? Because I feel like being like a Christian as well, we know that when you are in the correct position, God actually opens doors and is able to do things for you which you're not able to do by yourself, just because you're positioned correctly. And I think that as Christians, like, we forget about that sometimes, and we kind of are like, okay, let's try and just chuck anything anywhere. But we really need to home in and think, okay, this is our foundation, this is where we are. But at the same time, like Afaron was saying, it's half business and half music. But sometimes, even if we don't have them skills, we might have someone, again, like we were saying, like kind of building a network, someone who can manage our finances, or someone who can manage marketing or PR. So it's about trying to actually do that as well. So I think it's really focusing down on being purpose driven, and really focusing on where you are and what you're actually trying to do.
And then, sorry, just to cut in, Derrick said a good point about the purpose, but I want to add on to that. It's also the calling as well of where you're called to, like he said, but it's also whether you're called to the temple, i.e. the churches and the church market, or to the marketplace, which is the world, or you're called to both places. I think some artists need to realize that, because that is very, very important. If you're called to the temple, then you know that there's a certain language, there's certain traditions, there's certain things, the way we do things. We know it. They're unspoken, they're unwritten. We know what it is. But when you're going out to the marketplace, there are certain rules. For example, you can't be talking about necessarily the deepness of or the depth of the Holy Spirit, because they don't understand that. They're spiritually blind. So this is where it says in Galatians 5, where we need to use the fruits of the spirits: love, joy, peace, happiness. Use those contexts, dumb it down a little bit. It's not dumbing it down, but you know what I mean? Like, the Lord uses the foolish things to confound the wise, but understand that the rules are different when you're going to the marketplace. You need to find a way to reach the people through branding, marketing, and the details of your music, and also sometimes even your genre, because some genres, even for years, we know haven't been fully accepted by the temple, which is fine. But now use that as a key to go to the marketplace and do it over there, because it will be accepted out there.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with some of that, but I would say as well that like, obviously that comes down to, again, that calling, like where you're meant to be. But even if something's not accepted in a place, you can still continue to do it, if you know what I mean, in that area. So like Christian drill, a lot of people don't like it, and people think, oh no, you can't do Christian drill. But yeah, some people no, but there's a lot of people that say or don't agree with it because of maybe like something they've heard from actually the drill genre. But there's a lot of Christian drill artists that are very good, and they are fully like, it is Christian drill. And it's like, because people don't understand it or don't understand the language they're using, they kind of write it off straight away because they're thinking, oh, this sounds really dark or sounds really, but it's the same thing with hip hop. I remember like about 10 years ago, people couldn't rap in churches, and then it started to actually get more accepted in the church. And then it's, so again, it's tradition, but it's being able to be like, hey, where am I actually positioned, or what am I called to? Like Afaron was saying, am I called to the marketplace? Am I called to the church? If I'm a drill rapper and I'm called to the church, how am I going to navigate that? And how am I going to be consistent, and how to actually continue in that without worrying about if it's going to be accepted, if you know what I mean? So you kind of got to be because like, so it's like trying to do that mainly. So
yeah, I would also kind of touch, this kind of just reminds me of that saying in the word as well, that, you know, being faithful with the small. I definitely feel like, you know, let's take the Christian rule, for example. It's definitely about knowing where you're positioned. And I think that's something that we all need to kind of take time to figure out. It's one of those things that, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. You really need to kind of seek God and say, where exactly do you want me to be? And then being faithful in that, knowing that, you know, it kind of works in hand, like, you know, you're being obedient to where God has positioned you, and then you're using the tools that he's giving you. And then over time, you will see that faithfulness, and he will blow on it and will disperse you to wherever he needs you to be, because you are being faithful to the position that he has placed you in. You're not trying to jump around to see where you fit, kind of thing. You know, God has given each and every one of us our own unique calling and our own unique sound and our own unique way of doing things. It's being faithful to those things. And even when you were saying about, you know, whether we're called to the temple or to the marketplace, I think that is a very, very, very key thing. I think it's super, super, super key. And I wanted to kind of touch on that briefly with Jay, because as I mentioned earlier, he's a Christian like all of us, but he's been called to serve in the marketplace as opposed to being a producer for Christian artists. So Jay, what was your journey like with that, just very briefly? Like, you know, how accepting or how not accepting was the church when they were like, I only work, you know, just explain your journey about that just briefly.
I would say the church was kind of more accepting. It was more my parents that were non-accepting it, because it's like, you grown up in a Christian home. There's no way you're listening to Dr. Dre's album in my parents' house. There's no way. And even though it's a good album,
it's not about good.
Essentially study purposes, in a way where I'm listening to the music, I'm learning how to make the music because I've heard it so many times. You're called to do this. I'm like, well, if I'm called to do this, let me study that and make sure that I get that right. With the church, I feel like it's on my point of view, it's getting better, because I feel like as a producer, I kind of can dictate and kind of move the session the way that I kind of want it to go. So I can kind of move you in a section where it's like, you know what, let's try and do this pop record, or let's try and do this, if it's R&B, let's try to do that. Let's try and move it in that bit, but let's still have the message where the message is honestly and truthfully the Bible. It's not, let's just make it fake Bible and just add scriptures that aren't even scriptures into it. Let's not do that, but let's make a genuinely Christian fucking record, but with the sounds that we like. And I feel like there's room for that. I feel like what will slowly start to happen is that the church will slowly start to accept it, because they see that it's actually changing people. And I think it all comes down to, does your music change people, or are you doing it for the bag?
Wow.
So
yeah.
I mean, either way, the bag will still come. The money will always come. But are you doing music for a feeling, or are you doing it for the funds? And my thing that I've always said to artists in studio, don't ever try to chase the hit. There's no such thing as that. A hit exists, but you can never find it. Like, there's records that we can look at now, like Chico Time. That's a hit record. But for some people, they may not consider it as a hit record. A hit record, I would say, is when you hear the song and you get goosebumps down your whole body, or you just start crying and you don't know why you're crying. You start laughing, you don't know why. Chase that. And I feel like there's no way, like, a hit song is a hit song. So whether it's R&B or it sounds like what the church is used to, the church will know if it's changing people. If you're playing that one song and you see the whole church lifting up their hands and they're in tears and the atmosphere is changing, whether it's considered a gospel song, whether it's considered a pop song, it will work. So yeah,
that's what hip hop had done in churches, hasn't it? I think that's what slowly started to convert people, because they saw youth are gravitating to this and they're changing their lifestyle because of this. So you're absolutely right. Is your music making a difference? You know, is it making a difference?
Yeah.
And I think on a kind of spiritual thing, to add to what we both said, when you're called to the market, you're technically I call it a modern day Levite, but you're a minister and you're an apostle. You know what I'm saying? Apostle set to music, but you're still an apostle nonetheless, because you're going out of the four walls of the church to go and spread the gospel, serve in whatever capacity. So I think people who are called to the marketplace need to have an understanding. Okay, that is really the title or the mantle that I'm holding, regardless of what I'm doing physically. Do you see what I'm saying? Because a lot of people might, even though what Jay's doing is great, a lot of people might be like, get too spiritual, be like, but it's a bit on the fence though. And it's like, no, if he's been called to do that, then that's his calling. He's meant to be an apostle, shine his light in that field for a reason. And like I said, like the traditions of how we normally see things in the temple are completely different when you're in the apostolic kind of field in the marketplace, because it's really running by what the Spirit and what God is saying in that moment, in that time. Forget what the protocols of the temple are at that in that way. Does that make sense? So just to kind of add a spiritual thing to what Jay said, because it was very important.
That's very true as well, because I think people have that misconception of what going into the marketplace is going to look like, because they have that perception of, in church, this is what happens when the Spirit of God moves. But what does it look like in a club? You ain't gonna know what's gonna look like in a club. It could be just, I mean, I've been to places where there's Christian artists performing mainstream songs, right? That singer-songwriter type songs that they do. And the silence that is in that place, you could tell people don't know what's happening to them. You can feel,
but they know that they're getting,
they know something is happening. Do you understand? And so I think we need to ease up on ourselves in a sense that when you're going out in the marketplace, you're not expected to slay the whole arena. That's not what it's going to look like. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. It's going to look like people observing you, staring at people that come up to you afterwards. It's about seed planting more than it is about everybody falling out. Do you understand? Right. So I think we have to ease up on ourselves. Well, the church has to see it that way. Do you understand that sort of process is going to look different in the world? Because as Derrick was saying, they know about Holy Ghost. Yeah. So they don't know what that is. They just know that something is happening. Do you know what I mean? So, and I like I said, I've seen the impact of that, where an artist will go, audience member will go up to the artist after and, oh mate, your music really moved me. What was that song about? What inspired you to write that song? And then they're able to say, the song's actually about Jesus. And then, I mean, that's an icebreaker right there. And they're not going to turn away at that point, because they're like, how you made that song about? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's seed planting, and it's going to look different from space to space, you know? Yeah, it's just, doctrinal differences, I guess. You've got some really interesting comments coming up there.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, like someone was asking about what is your why? And I think that's what we're talking about now. It's like, if you don't know what you're meant to be doing out there, then that's going to be a problem.
I think every
in or outside, isn't it? It's the problem outside. So
yeah. Because then what tends to happen is that if you don't know what your why is, you tend to almost steal somebody else's why.
Yeah, you drift, and whatever you encounter, that's what you're gonna suck that up like a sponge and then do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Then you end up with a career that you hate. I can't make
all you're doing or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can get like that. Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm so totally give up. But yes, okay, because I've completely missed a whole big chunk, which I'm really annoyed about. And I'm sure it was good. I was seeing it off another of my tablet, and it looked really like cool. But Audrey, I heard you about to. Are you still gonna stay with us?
Oh yeah, no, we've had some time. It's not too long.
Okay.
Because I'm not gonna do that, Rose. I ain't gonna do that.
No, that's fine. Just had to double check, you know. Okay, so I kind of wanted to then move on about how we could then kind of try to find a way to kind of find the balance between navigating between, like, you know, Afaron kept saying that, you know, what we do in a way is half, you know, it's half business, half ministry. How do we kind of navigate through that, finding that balance that, you know, we are doing what is pleasing unto God, but at the same time, we are doing what is correct business-wise, making sure that we are following through what needs to be done within this industry. Afaron, you want to say something?
Yes, I do. But I'm looking at, sorry, I'm in this world of macro and micro, and I'm always moving. So as you're talking, I'm doing this, just going crazy in between the dials. Okay, I'll say it like this: for someone who's in the marketplace, the first thing I think they should definitely need is, and this might be slightly direct, kind of off key, but they need an accountability partner in some sense, kind of help them on the ministry side on that sense, to kind of keep them on track. It doesn't have to necessarily be a pastor. It could just be someone but it's someone of faith that has a relationship with God. Let me just put it like that. To kind of get a balance then as an artist as well. Again, some things we said already, getting a team together, getting the right people in place. And then also, in some ways, you kind of have to call what you're doing a ministry. You kind of have to have that in the back of your brain, as well as a career. Let's put it like that. But also, I would say leading with the ministry first, understanding what your mission is, even write it down, understand your mission statement, your vision, your goals, all those things. And then also on the career side of things, you have to look at what you want to achieve, who you want to work with, all the other musical creative things as well. So to get that balance, you literally, like I said, you have to work with things on a double-edged sword all the time. You need to kind of have to get a pen and piece of paper, put a line down the middle, and literally go spiritual on one side, physical on the other side, or business on the other, and then just write down everything and then kind of break it down from there. But accountability partner is definitely one of the first things I would say, because in this time I've been talking to, well, over the last probably about 3 years, I've talking to a lot of gospel artists and a lot of gospel creators, and there's more of them being called out to the marketplace than ever before, which means God is moving somewhere and God is doing something. Which means now we accountability partners have to be the number one thing to kind of have on the list, I would say, before we move anywhere else on achieving anything. But I'll stop there.
Yeah, it does help to have accountability, because, you know, going into the marketplace, this world has a lot. It has a lot, and you know, you see, yes, we have the Holy Spirit, but like I said before, God is not a God of isolation. I personally don't believe he allows us to do things all alone. He definitely always brings, at this time I hear it, like destiny helpers, people to help you move your vision along. And accountability is so key, because, you know, if someone is called into the marketplace, if someone is called to work with, you know, in an environment, let's say, you know, where there's a lot of temptation, you know, and you know, they need someone where they can call and be like, yo, I need help because I'm about to fall. I'm really about to fall, and I need to be a light in this situation. So it's very, very key. I agree to have accountability partners.
Sorry, I was gonna say as well, also for refining, because a lot of especially there was one rapper in particular. He used to do gospel rap. He's not doing it anymore. However, I know that person gave all that they had, and at the end of it, they were like, "Lord, I'm empty. I need refilling." And they probably needed that accountability partner to pray with them, stand with them, and say, "Right, take a sabbatical for a little bit. The tour's done. Sit down, refill yourself up again. So when you go back out there on the battlefield, you're restored." So as much it is to pray against the temptations, is also for refining, refilling, and refreshing. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're all called to be light at some point. We're all called to, and I believe that, like, with all of us here and everyone watching, having the gift of music, it's to draw people in. And I definitely don't think that as Christians we should be scared to experiment with ourselves. Like Jay was saying, why don't we try different genres? Because working for, not saying that we should copy what the world is doing, but at the same time, we're experimenting, because at the end of the day, God is he's the most creative thing. He's a creative God. He created the whole world, and he deposited that same creative each of one of us. So we should be able to explore and shine, and through that shine that light into the world. I think in terms of topic points, actually no, there was one more before we go into questions. And this I'm hoping that like it doesn't take us to midnight, but
but it might.
I'm monitoring. I might press a buzzer or something. Do you feel that, considering everything that we've talked about and the development and how things are getting better with the artists that are coming out, the songs that are coming out, whatever, do you feel that award nominations are a true reflection of what's happening right now in the industry? We're going to try to keep it as short as possible. And just to put a disclaimer and a caveat, that's not to say that the industry and people coming out is for awards. If there are Christian artists for awards alone, I think they really need to revisit their why. But I can, from what I've seen, like most recently, there's kind of been a repetitive story. So I mean, the floor is open. Who wants to jump in?
Okay. That's a big one.
This is a tough one.
I have to open a window. Yeah.
No, that's a big one. Cause I've done a post about it actually.
Oh.
And I've done it on Instagram, and it actually, kind of, I got a lot of DMs and I got a lot of messages back to me, because I think what it was, it's more the organizations which I had more of an issue with than actually the nominees for the actual nominations, because I felt that a lot of the nominees who had been voted, I felt, me personally, and I think a lot of people agreed with it, that I felt that they were just chucked on because they were the only ones that they knew. So instead of them to actually know that actually they didn't actually go to people who actually knew about the industry properly.
Yeah.
They just went to people who was like, okay, yeah, he's a gospel artist, let me chuck in him. Even if they haven't done any tracks. It was more like, okay, he's a gospel artist, so let me let me just chuck him on for a nomination. It wasn't necessarily about the actual artists who have been pushing out songs, and there was people that done so many albums, so many songs, and they had 1 million views and they had all of this, but they wasn't even regarded. It was more people who had already been regarded like 3 or 4 times before. So I think sometimes it's not an awareness, but people need to now go who actually knows about the industry, instead of just using someone because they have a name or a position.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Derrick, that's true, but also you've got to be aware that these organizations have criterias, and so maybe some of these artists are just qualifying naturally. So because the rest of the industry or the rest of artists are not following those patterns, or they're unable to follow them. Maybe they're unable to follow those patterns. They can't reach the expectation of you must have to have toured 6 times in the year, for example, if that was a criteria. So the awards that have backbone, if I could say that, the awards that have backbone have criteria. Stop laughing. Stop laughing, have criteria. My concern is about awards that have no backbone. So basically it's a knees up. It's a knees up. Right. It is.
It's an appreciation.
An excuse to put on an event and charge you for a 6-course meal. It doesn't do anything for the artist, because when you put that on your resume, it means nothing. Most awards that we understand to be awards, they change your career. by getting that award. If you win a Stella, if you win a Grammy, your fee goes up, your ability to go into different markets change, blah, blah, blah. We have a lot of pat on the back awards, a lot of everybody gets an award. Yay! One for you, one for you.
You get an award. You get
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that completely waters down the industry. It doesn't build it up.
Yeah.
So I would challenge anybody who's doing awards now is to make sure your award system or your awards ideas are solving an issue in the industry.
Yeah. Do you think that at the same time that a lot of them say Stella Awards and Grammy and all of them big ones, the problem sometimes is now it's more about, okay, I know this person, or it's more of a friend thing, or someone who actually knows someone else? Because when I was thinking about, say, okay, let's use the UK, the MOBO Awards. That was one which like had a lot of issues, like because it was more people weren't getting recognized or an award for actually their stats. It was more for because someone knew that they'd done that. If you know what I mean.
In the early, that might have been a reason, that might have been a cause, in that somebody was allocated the role of going out there and showing me what gospel artists look like. And because we haven't done a lot to, portray ourselves, to market ourselves, they would have come back to this list that was not that great. Yeah.
But do you think like that's the problem, though? Do you think the problem is the people that are choosing to be the ones who actually choose the music? They're not the ones who have to air to what's actually going on.
For sure, the system has changed now in that they have a pool of gospel industry people now. So I know there are quite a few, maybe say 10 people plus that you'll get an email saying that you are one of the panel judges, and you'll be asked to submit people.
Okay.
So that they're kind of causing more of a level playing field in that instance.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
the other issue is the criteria now. People have to match up to that criteria. Otherwise, we're going to see the same people.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what this criteria could be like?
On the website, but
okay.
Between a certain period of time, you have to record within a certain season.
Right.
It's things like that. So because that is the criteria, a lot of people by default wouldn't qualify, and that's why you say coming up.
A lot of sense.
It's not that they're trying to be biased. I think before that wasn't the case. It was about somebody putting names forward, but it has become a stronger thing to be nominated for. But overall, like I think these awards that just pop up out of the blue, again, it's just like, but what are you solving by putting on this event? Do you know what I mean? And I think even people who do events, I mean, could you imagine if every event that was put on was solving something or contributing to the industry? We'd be a lot further on. Or it was teaching an artist something, maybe even teaching you that in order to qualify for this award, these are the things that you should have in place. Are you a member of PRS? Are you a member of PPL? Do you know what TPS means? Do you know simple things, right? Yeah. Are you on Spotify? Are you visible on Facebook? Have you got more than 500 fans? Have you bothered? You see what I'm saying? If those qualifying factors, no matter how small, but there needs to have.
So it kind of goes back to that whole knowing the basic principles of business and making sure that you're putting things in place.
And not being afraid of business. I don't understand why some people, even church-wise, why are you, if you're a minister, a music minister, and you're going out there doing churches, I don't understand why you're afraid of business in a film, because that's decency and order. So even if it boils down to that, it's church is actually a business. As a secretary, it's got admin parts, it's got this part, that it must be running as a business for it to run.
Yeah.
So this fear of not accepting that you have to market yourself or brand yourself because that's worldly. But if you ask yourself, who are the artists that I like, and you look at what they're doing,
I mean, if they didn't even do if they didn't do the branding, you wouldn't even know about them.
You didn't know about them, and it's becoming more and more that the brand is going before the music. If your branding it ain't popping, I don't want to hear anything. We've become so visual on our timeline. On our timeline, we're doing this, and it's not unless something catches our eye, we go to click to listen to the music. So it's almost like the visual, the branding aspect of it has become so powerful.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All these reality shows that include gospel artists, right? That's what you're looking at. That's a whole brand.
Yeah. That's very
And I think-
lifestyle is like, Jay.
Go on, Jay.
I'm gonna say this. Seeing as we've named names, I was disappointed with the Mobo Gospel nominations over the Grammy ones, and I'll explain. And my explanation is this: with the Grammy ones, I think the one name that shocked everybody was Kanye West. Now, I'm gonna say this and just be real. And I've said it to people, and some people have given me like a dirty eye, and that's it, and that's good. But my thing is this: you've got to understand what the level is, and you've got to understand that, the criteria. But also, there's mediocre, which is I'm just getting by, and there's are exceptionally good. Like we have to give you it. So obviously, for years we always see on the Grammys, we always see Kirk Franklin every single year. And I've said to people, well, if Kirk Franklin is the standard, then why wouldn't he be nominated if he's the standard? We should aim for the standard in order to get nominated. The only thing that I was upset about is that Sinach wasn't nominated. That's the only thing. I feel like Waymaker was a great song, but that's besides the point. With the Mobos, I do kind of feel like people are just picking generic names that they know, like, oh, this person, oh yeah, he must have been. But has he released anything? Has he done anything that's been of the level? Because my thing is, we can't just be giving awards to people that are mediocre. That's not going to happen on top 40 charts. Like the top 40 charts aren't just giving awards away because, oh, you were okay, you just made it. Okay, well done. They're giving it to Justin Bieber. They're giving it to Dua Lipa.
Sorry, Jay. There's also another little issue. The gospel industry doesn't have any statistics. We don't have a central point.
Why do you have to say that, Paul?
Well, we don't. Because you know what? I've kind of found that out in when I've been applying for funds, etc. And I'm sure other artists that apply for funds, they want to know that kind of information, that kind of anecdotal information about what pains your area, blah, blah. There is no place to go to say that the UK has 500,000 artists, 6 million musicians, and we don't have that statistical data. And that is also impacting our ability to qualify for things that are larger. So it's not just about the sound or how much effort you put into it. It's like if somebody is led to research, the awards panelists people are led to research, they can't find you online. Or the last post you had was like 6 years ago. They're going to wonder what you've been doing. And the mere fact is you could be very active, but you just neglected that part because your fans are in churches. Your whole church is your fan. You understand? But we neglected that part. So, yeah, it does. I mean, Snoop getting an award for a gospel album, again, the man deserved it. I'm not being wrong. He deserved it.
He deserved it 100%.
What am I going to say? He deserved it. So, yeah.
It all comes down to people.
I was going to say,
Maker is a big song, yeah.
Okay, just going to the final point that you're making, and then we'll take questions.
Okay, I was saying people buy quality. That's it. People pay for quality, they take time with quality. You're not going to sit down to anything that's mediocre. So if the standard is of a high standard, and I'll use Kanye as an example, he jumped into a genre that he's alien to, and he changed the whole sound on that bit of gospel. Now he's getting awarded because he's raised the standard up so high that you can't just, like, you're not even giving him the Grammy for, oh, it's because it's Kanye West. It's because it's a very good album. He got the best people to mix it, the best vocalists, the best producers as well.
Right, he took it on the road. He did all the things that the normal gospel artist would have done. In effect.
Yeah, he's diligent. So it just comes down to, are you exhausting every single avenue to make sure that your music is out there, and is it of quality? Like, you can't expect to be awarded for something that's not excellent. And on the other hand, it does need to change. There does need to be statistics. There needs to be a gospel chart that kind of makes it.
I think they're developed.
Kind of see who's here and who's where, but also it all just comes down to quality. People will actually buy it into quality if it's good.
Yeah.
Derrick, did you have one more point, and then we'll take questions?
Oh no, do you know what? Because my point, because I was just gonna talk on obviously the Kanye thing, because I don't think his album was that great, but like, hear me out. I think it's more because we know what Kanye is like. When he did cross over into gospel, it sounded like his normal albums, but just Kanye on gospel. So I didn't feel like it was something which was completely different for the gospel scene, if you know what I mean. Now, I'm not saying I love Kanye, but I'm not saying it wasn't exceptional where, okay, yeah, this is something crazy. It was just Kanye on gospel. And that's kind of how I felt that it was. It was something that he doesn't do different. He just done the same thing, but on gospel, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Oh gosh, I really wish that we could like.
No. Sorry, go on to the next point.
We're gonna take some questions. Some people asked a few questions during this conversation, so we're just gonna take those quickly and then round up. So the first question was, do you think gospel music in the UK is lacking creativity, and does everything sound the same? Derrick, I'm gonna go to you because you manage a whole range of music on your platform.
I'd say no, it's really different and really kind of experimental. And the reason why I say that, compared to obviously no shade or anything on the US, but I think with the UK, because of the different cultures that we have, so we have a lot of African infused and also Caribbean infused music. We're able to swing between genres and even make up new genres which haven't really got an actual like place. So I think like Shireen, I think she commented as well, like her music is very different, but also you have the Afro swing as well that is coming out, and there's a lot of music which is crossing over. And I think with the creativity, the UK has it like on the point, definitely. So I think it's just more of an exposure of that and more awareness of that sort of music. Because I think we definitely, like, it's definitely not the same. It is very different.
Awesome. I think that's a very good answer. And next question, what are your thoughts on gospel music being called inspirational music by the music industry? I'm not sure if I've actually had it called. Maybe that's just
really, yeah. I mean, if they are, I think it's more of a strategy to get it under the radar.
Okay.
More brand palatable in a sense, because
do you think because of the connotations probably associated with?
Yeah.
Well, I remember
full on gospel choiry looking gospel.
Yeah, I remember I was speaking to an American colleague of mine. She's not a Christian, and I think I randomly put the question out there, which kind of led to this event actually. And she said that, you know, if she was to hear gospel, automatically she's thinking of, you know, something that's really in your face, very gospel choiry and things like that. So I kind of see where you're coming from in terms of inspirational music being labeled as gospel as more strategic.
It's a bit when we know that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that too.
Yeah, I said it.
We love the truth. And what is the UK gospel sound, and what differentiates it from the US?
That's a big question, you know. That's a huge question.
I think we're still trying to find our narrative and define it.
I want Jay to speak about that.
Because it's a tough one.
I think, you know what, the UK sound, and I'm going to say this and hopefully it makes sense. I think, especially with gospel, we kind of have an advantage because we already have a scene aside of us. So, of course, we've got the Afro swing, we've got drill, even though that's controversial, but we've got all these other ones. It kind of makes it easier to kind of look at that genre and be like, okay, I can do that as well. Same thing with what Derrick said about Kanye, where basically Kanye just basically dropped himself in gospel music. I feel like the UK sound is what you see outside. Like, you can go Brixton Market, that is the UK sound. You can go Frisbee Park Market, that's the UK sound. You can go Golders Green, the UK sound. So the sound the sound is almost fluid, but I feel like gospel music has the biggest potential to become almost the same as pop, where pop, like you have the pop charts and you will see the Migos next to Dua Lipa, next to Georgia something that does country music, and you see them all together in the same group, and it becomes like gospel can always be like different sound. You can have gospel where it's the big choir sound, and that's cool. But then you can also have gospel R&B. You can have gospel soul, gospel house, gospel drill. All these things. Again, it goes to what Derrick said about exposure. Once we're exposed to these sounds a lot more, we can kind of start to decide, okay, this is UK gospel and this is US gospel. With US gospel, I kind of feel like, especially if you listen to most of the songs, you're going to hear a big choir in the background, not normal BVs.
Right, the arrangements tend to be more along that line.
It tends to be bigger with the background vocals, the choir. It just sounds bigger, and I feel like with the UK, we don't have to be the same as that. We shouldn't even be the same as that.
I think we should.
Yeah, it's just basically like what is on our doorstep is the sound. Like I can go outside and hear people driving past, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a UK artist, and I can definitely hear and be like, oh, that's the Migos. That's definitely US. So I feel like being authentically ourselves, that's the UK sound, without looking at them and being like, we need to wear robes and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like as well, I can't remember who said it, but being in a multicultural country, you know, you have that advantage of experimenting. And I think in the experimenting and having the variety and different sounds, like Jay said, it does make UK because we're different. You know, I feel like with an American sound, Americans know who they are. You know, they're not. I think that then we're going to take back to history now, kind of realizing their roots and things like that. Whereas UK, we know our roots and we are proud of our roots, and we will identify with our roots musically and with food and whatever. And that's what makes UK just a land of variety. And so I think, as Jonathan said, as Jay said, that we should be authentic as a country, and in the gospel industry, just continue to be ourselves and authentic and just genuine. And I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential, and I think we are definitely on our way. And I love this comment. We shouldn't even say it's UK or US. Whatever sounds like inspirations, taken. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think the more that you're inspired and driven and, you know, you want to be creative, the more people will draw to you, because not only do people draw to quality, they draw to authenticity as well.
That's why it's so hard to define a standard as well, because there is so much of a variation. And can you really standardize a variation of art like that? So I think that is one of the reasons why, if people that come forward and say we should have a standard, like how would that standard look mirrored across all these different potential genres? Because, you know, like drill music's supposed to sound rough.
Yeah.
How will you then sort of measure it up against, you know, something else, neo soul?
Yeah.
So it is quite hard for the gospel fraternity to define what a standard is.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, we're going to end the conversation here. I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed myself. Panelists, I hope you did as well. I learned a lot as, you know, a fellow singer-songwriter as well. I've definitely learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to take that on board for myself. And I just want to take this time to really thank everybody for tuning in. Our first ever event has been a success, thank God. We really want to thank Derrick, Afaron, Jae-Eaux, and Audrey for agreeing and just coming on board and sharing their insights and knowledge this evening. Follow their tags on Instagram, as you can see here. Follow them. Their information is also in the description box below on this channel. And just before we go, finally, I did mention before that Audrey also runs a bi-weekly webinar, seminar, panel conversation called Gospel Topics under Industry Developer. You can see the information here. I'll also add this to the description box below in case you want a direct link. The next one is on the 3rd of February at 7:30. You do have to register. And when you register, you will receive the confirmation. I went to one 2 weeks ago and it blew my mind. I was absolutely amazed. I absolutely loved it. And I was gutted I missed the one yesterday because, because it had
the artists working and ministering in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So
and
that's why we're going to continue that conversation because it went huge. It went
yeah.
really huge.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. And, you know, things like Gospel Topics, I know there's one called The Great Debate.
Right,
These conversations are happening, meaning that people want to see change. People do want to raise the standard. We do want to put UK gospel music on the map, not just for being on the map's sake, but because the world needs Christian music. So let's together raise the standard, collaborate with people as we've learned. Don't be too territorial. You know, work with people, get better, improve your craft, all of these things. So thank you once again. This will be available for playback either tomorrow or over the weekend. MIF's first session meetup. Thank you very much. Is next Friday. More information will come out about. Great. So take care, everybody. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you at the next event. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to our panelists.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
All right. Bye.